Welcome to This Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today because, well, we're going to fundamentally transform how you hear, process, and actually embody music. You know, when you watch a dancer and you think, wow, they literally just look like the music? Yeah, that's true musicality. And today we're unpacking a really brilliant framework from dance instructor Vladislav Knight. It breaks down exactly how to build this skill and how to actually hear the beat across totally different dance styles. So get ready because we are going to completely change your relationship with the dance floor. Okay, let's dive into this. It's a question basically every dancer asks themselves at some point, right? Especially when you're feeling frustrated, just kind of mechanically going through the motions of your choreography. Well, the fantastic news we're exploring today is that musicality is absolutely a trainable skill. There's no way around it. It is not some mystical gift you're just born with or without. As the source material points out, it's actually a deeply layered, active listening skill that you can literally build step by step. So what does this all mean? Basically, musicality is the relationship between your body and the music structure. That means the drums, the bass, the melody, and, believe it or not, even the silence. It is definitely not just rigid timing, perfectly hitting a 1, 2, 3, 4 count. It's an active, dynamic relationship. And the beauty is, you can practice it. When you learn to locate the pulse, anticipate those changes, and feel the accents in real time, your movement totally transforms. You go from just being on time to being remarkably intentional. So here's the layered building process we'll be walking through today. First, the foundation of pulse. Second, how styles speak. Third, accents and in-betweens. Fourth, the tempo stress test. And finally, number 5, physical translation. We're moving from basic listening all the way to complex physical execution. All right, layer 1, the foundation of pulse. Because before we can decorate the house, we gotta pour the concrete, right? The absolute first step here is finding the pulse, way before you even think about counting. I want you to picture this underlying pulse as the engine of the track. It's that steady driving force keeping everything running, even when the groove gets super complicated or layered. Our source actually cautions against the really common habit of only counting from the top of the music. And why is that? Well, because when the beat shifts its emphasis, that top count is going to fail you. Instead, you've got to listen for the most consistent rhythmic layer, usually something like a heavy kick drum or a repeating hi-hat pattern. Once you've actually located that engine, you want to practice what the source calls silent counting. Let's try this right now. Just mentally participate with me. Imagine a song with a steady kick drum and just mentally tap along to it in your head. The goal here is to keep that mental tapping going while you just move lightly through your bass groove. By doing this, you're building this rock-solid internal reference. That way, when the choreography suddenly becomes highly syncopated and complex, your body doesn't lose the beat. Why? Because your internal engine is already purring. Okay, let's move on to section 2 and see how this builds, how dance styles speak. Now, this brilliantly illustrates how different dance styles emphasize entirely different parts of the exact same musical bar. Take hip-hop, for instance. It heavily highlights syncopation and sharp rhythmic accents. But meanwhile, salsa centers its timing around a very clear, distinct pattern of steps and weight shifts. Then, if you switch over to ballroom, the musical phrasing is used to guide these longer, sweeping lines. Some contemporary styles might even toss strict counting out the window entirely just to interpret the texture and the energy of the beat. The takeaway here is that you absolutely have to adjust your internal engine to match the specific language of the style you're dancing. To actually put this into practice, the strategy is to choose one style at a time and really, truly watch the music. Pay attention. Where do the biggest, heaviest hits land? Notice how the groove kind of leans or swings. Anticipate what's happening in the track right before a chorus or a massive drop. By recognizing and then physically matching these very specific stylistic moments, your dancing is going to feel deeply connected to the song. It won't feel like you're just strictly mathematically timing your moves. Moving right along into section 3, accents and in-betweens. Let's talk about suspense and swing. So the crucial point is this. If the pulse is the engine of our car, accents are the sudden turbo boosts, and the in-betweens are those smooth coasting moments. Your musicality is going to improve dramatically the exact moment you stop treating the beat like a simple binary on or off switch. Sure, accents, a loud snare hit, a clap, a sudden bass stab, those are awesome. They're the obvious moments your body can highlight with stronger dynamics. But we absolutely have to look beyond those obvious hits. It is equally important to find the smaller, quieter spaces between the accents. Those little in-between pockets, that is exactly where suspense, groove, and swing actually live. The source gives us this brilliant exercise to master this, called the 3-layer listening drill. Basically, you pick a song and mentally mark 3 distinct layers. Layer 1, the pulse. That's your steady engine. Layer 2, the primary accent. That's where you're going to put your absolute strongest movements. And then layer 3, a secondary texture, like the subtle ticking of a hi-hat or a soft rolling bass. Try actually landing your strong movements exactly on the primary accent, while letting your subtler, softer motions ride on that texture layer. Stacking these layers like this actually trains you to hear ahead. It makes your movement anticipatory and planned, rather than just reacting late to a sound you literally just heard.
All right, let's pressure test this house we're building. Section 4, the tempo stress test.
This is absolutely crucial. A huge trap dancers fall into is moving perfectly at one specific tempo, right? But the second a track abruptly switches speeds, everything just falls apart. True musicality means building adaptable flexibility, not rigid muscle memory. Being able to move well at one tempo just isn't going to cut it. You have to practice the exact same basic groove across multiple tempos and styles. That's how you ensure your musicality is truly transferable no matter what terrain your engine is driving over.
So, how do we test this? We use the rehearsal test. Take a short routine, or honestly, even just a simple phrase with your arms. Now test it against these 3 totally distinct types of tracks. First, play a song with a very steady, straightforward beat. Next, switch to a track that's loaded with heavy syncopation. And finally, try a song that drops into a noticeably slow halftime feel. The point here isn't to memorize the songs. It's to see exactly how your weight, your speed, and your emphasis shift to match the music, all while the actual steps stay completely simple. When you can keep your phrasing consistent but change your accent placement, congratulations, you've officially passed the stress test.
Okay, we have arrived at the final layer, Section 5, physical translation. Time to paint and decorate.
Now, what's really interesting here is the progressive nature of these steps, because just hearing the beat is really only half the battle. You have to physically decide when to expand, when to compress, and how strongly to commit. You start by exaggerating one musical element. Just make your accent hits incredibly visibly strong so your body learns that connection. But and this is key, you don't stay there. Step 3 is vital. Gradually reduce that exaggeration. Because real seasoned musical dancers don't just look huge on every single beat. They use step 4 to vary their dynamics naturally, to actually match the story of the song. Practicing with these clear parameters at first is what allows you to find a totally natural expression later on, without ever losing your rhythmic accuracy. Improve musicality by building a reliable ear, then applying what you hear through consistent physical technique. Vladislav Knight really hits the nail on the head here. This quote beautifully summarizes the core ethos of our explainer today. Improving musicality is way less about searching for that single right mathematical count, and it's entirely about building a reliable ear and pairing it with technique. If you train your pulse, identify those accents, test your phrasing, and shift your tempos, well, your dancing will ultimately feel like it belongs to the music itself, not just to the choreography. I want to leave you with this final kind of provocative thought. We spend so much time obsessing over the loud hits and the heavy bass, right? But the true mastery of this highly trainable skill actually happens in the margins. So, what physical choices will you make the next time you hear the silence between the beats? Take these strategies, find your engine, and I literally cannot wait to see how you connect to the music the next time you step onto the dance floor. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.